Welcome in, everybody. It's time for Talkin' Ball Monday night, brought to you by our friend Dr. Brett Robin of the Austin Orthopedic Institute. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Jerry Hamilton. We're taking your questions each and every Monday night. That's what we do when we're talking ball a little bit, so make sure you use the chat line and get those questions in, and Jerry and I will get to them as quickly as possible. Some news breaking earlier today. Just to recap for those of you guys unfamiliar with what has gone on today, Nick Brooks, the very talented, and I really blew the doors off of it in spring camp, maybe a little too much. Caught DWI on 6th Street on Saturday night, Sunday morning, was arrested. We'll see what the outcome of that is. Steve Sarkisian earlier today saying that he was aware of it and had been in contact with Nick, but nothing had been decided as yet. So we'll wait and see what exactly that means or what we're thinking about it. But Jerry, Nick Brooks situation, question I have for you is, this is one of those things you don't want to become, how do I want to put it, habit forming. It happened a couple years ago with Samaje Burrell, the linebacker at Texas. It happened with, Tavondre Sweat about 3 weeks before he's going to get drafted, had a DWI. So it can happen, but you don't want it to become an epidemic like what has happened. And I don't know if it's DWI or just driving at Georgia, but you don't want these sorts of things to become epidemic, right?
Yeah, look, he used to hope he learns from it and moves on. Guy's going to be a great player. Look, it's fun. The timing of it, I was told by somebody Sunday morning that that not only did Nick Brooks had a great spring, this person told me they think that guy's a future first-round pick. So don't mess it up, Nick. Learn from it. Run the stands. It's a lot of stands. Do what you need to do, your community service, and don't blow this opportunity you have, dude. You're too talented.
Yeah, I think that's the question. I harken back to a name, and you're going to remember this person, Jerry. He actually ended up making it to the NFL, but he had some issues off the field early in his career at Texas after playing some as a true freshman. That's Jamarcus Webb.
I knew that's where you were going, North Mesquite.
Yeah, yes, and left tackle, extraordinarily talented early in his career, was going to play some very, very early, and then had to end up going, what did he go to, West Texas State or A&M Commerce? Now, he ended up making it in the NFL and played for several years, but he probably cost himself the opportunity to be from being a first rounder to a fourth or fifth rounder, whatever he ended up being. Point being, Jamarcus Webb is a cautionary tale of sorts for Nick Brooks. Hopefully, a young man gets everything straightened up. And again, I will say this is allegedly. Now, he was arrested. That's not allegedly, but the DWI is alleged at this point. And that doesn't mean necessarily alcohol. It could be also marijuana, et cetera.
That was a great memory recall, Bobby, with the West Texas A&M, ended up being a 7th-round pick, started 73 games over 10 years in the NFL.
How much money did he cost himself? Because he ended up at West Texas A&M instead of starting at Texas.
He definitely never got the big contract in the NFL.
That's what I'm saying. That's what you got to worry about. All right. Other news and notes: Texas coaches out and about this week. Given now that the spring ball is done, Kyle Flood making the rounds today. I thought that was pretty hilarious. Zayden Crimpin, one of his very first visits. That's the big offensive lineman that's now been to Texas twice in the last month and a half. Crimpin, a tackle / center prospect, possibly for the Longhorns. Kyle Flood showed up at high school. What's funny about Zayden Crimpin here is his mom chimed in on the tweet. She's actually a teacher at the high school, and apparently Kyle Flood went by and went into her room to say hello today.
I think that was funny. I think the best thing of all of this photo is Flood. I mean, he's digging in. He wore the baseball jersey after the sweep of A&M today. That's good recruiting, right?
That's right.
Yeah, he really, he dug in a little bit on that one.
Nothing wrong with that. That's a good look. That almost looks like one of those Mitchell and Ness jerseys. Those old school ones that you can get, Jerry.
Yeah.
But anyways, Texas, we'll talk a little bit more about this and get y'all's questions and comments. I wanted to mention this in brief because obviously what we do a lot on Talkin' Ball is take questions on recruiting. Texas coaches on the road. We'll take some of y'all's questions a little bit. Last thing I wanted to hit on, Jerry, before we move forward. Sunday was Arch Manning's birthday.
Oh, yeah.
This fact. How about 2 Texas running backs share the same birthday of April 28th? Did you know that?
Yes, that is Christian Clark and James Simon.
Yes, exactly correct. So those 2 guys both sharing a birthday today. So happy birthday to those guys and more. All right, before we get into questions, please line those up again. Like I asked, we're going to say thank you to Dr. Britt Robin, who is our sponsor of each and every Monday night's Talkin' Ball. A special thanks to him at Austin Orthopedic Institute for sponsoring On Texas Football. Dr. Robin, a former Longhorn running back, knows what it takes to stay in the game, and he's here for athletes of all ages, specializing in musculoskeletal health. Dr. Robin treats joint pain and injuries with a conservative approach first, but also offers advanced surgical options, including arthroscopic procedures, fracture management, and total joint replacements. With convenient offices in Austin, Georgetown, and Killeen, Dr. Robin is accepting new patients. Now, if you're looking for a top-notch orthopedic, give Dr. Robin a call, 512-856-1000. That's 512-856-1000, anywhere in Austin, Georgetown, or Killeen, and get back to your active lifestyle and doing what you love. Jerry, I before we get to questions, I should let you open it up. You have anything you want to start with tonight to kind of give a topic for folks?
Yeah, so the Texas staff, one of the things Sark said, I was at the Houston Touchdown Club of Houston Sark's press conference. Jeff Howe and I this morning. Now, obviously, that video is on here on Texas Football YouTube channel. I think he spoke for about 28 minutes. But Sark said the staff was on the road in the state of Texas this week. Then they'll expand out of the state of Texas next week, which makes sense because I know in Florida and some schools in Georgia, a lot of spring practices don't start until next week in May. Texas, some schools have already started spring practices. So the staff was out and about. I think I saw where Mark Orfe was in Dallas today. I believe Kenny Baker was up there as well in that area. Obviously, Kyle Flood was. They're going to be all around the state of Texas this week. There'll be coaches, I think, swinging through the North Shores and the Shadow Creeks, all those schools here coming up this week. But in-state this week, out-of-state the following couple of weeks, then probably wrap it up in-state once again as they get ready for SEC spring meetings. Bobby and Destin, Sark will be at that one day, and then right into camps.
Yeah, I want to add this a little bit later. We're going to get to y'all's questions right now, but a little bit later, we're also going to talk about draft picks and compare draft picks and which teams in the SEC lost quite a bit of talent. We'll get to that a little bit later in this show as well as we get going. But first, let's do this. Talk with Jose Rodriguez. His question, good evening, gents. Regarding the portal, now that it's closed, can players still leave? If so, how does that affect them in terms of playing time for 2025? I'd love for us to snag a couple more. There's one. I will say this. The portal has closed, but teams have until Tuesday, tomorrow, to actually put their name officially in the portal if they put their name in the portal as late as Friday afternoon. And the reason why, it's 2 business days, 48 hours basically of business days where somebody has to put your name in the portal. So we'll still see more guys, not necessarily from Texas, but from around the country, go into the portal by tomorrow. However, if Texas is unaffected by that, which it feels that way right now, we can't say that with 100% certainty. How does it? There is a workaround here, Jose, and that is grad transfers. Grad transfers can go whenever they want.
Yeah.
And so that would be the idea. Now they can't go from an SEC school to Texas, grad transfers, and similarly they can't go from Texas to another SEC school. But grad transfers have the opportunity there to move whenever they want. They're not necessarily affected by the quote unquote portal window.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. I do think they would have announced their transfer though, Jose, if they could. By the way. All right, Jerry, here's one for you. Nathan, are there any non-running back targets that Chad Scott is helping with, like Choice would. Tashard Choice, the previous Texas running back coach. Also, are Aaron Joe and Josh Dunson calling some of these Georgia guys? What's your knowledge on Chad Scott? Do we really know yet? Is the real question.
Oh.
And then also Aaron Joe and Josh Dunson, the two former general managers at both Memphis and Georgia Tech, who are now at Texas with Brandon Harris.
Yeah, so Tashard Choice will Chad Scott will help out in Florida. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Look, he has tons of Florida ties, has recruited that state for years and years. If there's somebody, it's the same with Aaron Joe or Josh Dunson out of the office. If there's somebody they have a connection to, then yes, they'll help in the ways they can. But are those guys just calling recruits, being actually part of that? Very, very rarely are they actually the guys. I mean, but there's some of that going on, yes. But it's really if you have connections, right? If there's a real helping hand there. And a lot of times, Joe Dunson, they know a lot of the coaches.
Yeah.
That is the area where, setting up the visits, talking to them, or making sure the area recruiter or the position coach recruiter has the ins and outs of the recruitment, knows who they have to be in contact with to really work to get the kids on campus. So, yeah, there's some of that. But Chad Scott and Kenodo Hudson will both be part of some recruitments in the state of Florida. There's no doubt about that.
I want to add another person, another place that he's going to be recruiting in and helping with is North Carolina.
Yeah.
Don't forget, he's a North Carolina grad, even though he's from the Tampa area originally. He and Terry Joseph and Brandon Harris, by the way, were all at North Carolina at the same time. I don't know if people realize that or not. As far as Joe and Dunson, I agree. Not only do they have Georgia connections, they also have Florida connections, just general Southeast connections overall. I don't know if y'all saw this or not, but there's a defensive lineman. Was he from Tupelo, Mississippi? That was in
Traylon McCoy. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's northern Mississippi. I can guarantee you that Josh Dunson coming from Memphis would know all about Traylon McCoy. I think Alan Clark also recruiting him as well. All right, we're going to go next to Todd Lacey. Thank you very much for the super chat, Todd. Who do you predict will be all of the special team specialists? Kickoff return, punt return, gunners. If Texas can win the weekly special teams battle, they could win it all. So kickoff, return, punt, return, gunners. I want to say this. First of all, let's talk about the actual specialists. Jack Bomeister, the punter. Mason Shipley, we believe, will be the kicker. Will Stone, the kickoff specialist. But so let's now go to kickoff return, punt return, and gunners, Jerry. Why don't you go first? And we'll kind of bounce off each other right here.
To be determined for me. I'm not going to sit there and say I think Jonah Williams is going to factor heavily into both. I've said that punt return. I think he's going to factor heavily into the return game from the jump next year, and he just wasn't there for spring practice for me. I think he's my favorite to be the punt returner, unless they go experienced wide receiver game one. But I think Jonah Williams will take over as the season moves along.
So experienced wide receiver would be like DeAndre Moore, who frankly was one of the backup punt returners last year.
Yeah.
To your point, right, Jerry? Is that kind of guy? Maybe Ryan Niblett as a kick returner. Maybe as a kick returner. I don't know. For
one argument I want to throw out there, though, is people are like, well, you got to have experience. Well, Silas Bolden scared everybody to death every time there's a punt in it. And he had 4 years of experience. If you're fearless, and fearless wins.
Yes, this is true. What about gunners? Like Warren Roberson would definitely be one. He's a holdover from last year. You would think guys like Jelani McDonald would be ideal, but maybe not, considering he's going to be likely a starter at safety.
I'm looking at Grayson Littleton, one of those guys who has really jumped out early at DB.
Cade Phillips, maybe?
Potentially Cade Phillips, but Grayson Littleton. I'm looking at some guys like that as far as the gunners go. That's just me. I'm looking at some of those young DBs that have really stood out early on. And there's also depth. I mean, it could be a Santana Wilson, right? A strong kid that can get off the press, that's a physical kid. Could be somebody like that.
Would not be surprised if Michael Terry returned kicks, by the way. And the other young guy at punt return, watch for Dalen McCutcheon. Just to remember that because he has tremendous ball skills for his position. All right. This one from Juan Garza is, thank you for the super chat, Juan. Is Texas done with the portal? No, they are not. Now, that doesn't mean they're actually going to sign anymore, if that makes sense to you. And what I mean by that is they're going to continue to evaluate and try to maximize the roster however they can. I believe they're now currently at 83 scholarships. So they have 2 more to go. That could be a small backup, who knows, offensive lineman, for example. You just don't know where Texas is going to go. They have 2 scholarships to give, but they've got to find people to go with. I mean, they lost an offensive lineman in Malik Agbo. I don't know that they're going to go find some starting offensive lineman in certain, but they could find somebody with like experience, especially now that Nick Brooks has had his run in. So we'll see, Juan. I would hesitate to say they're done in any way, shape, or form. That's just not. I don't think that's how Sark operates. If there's an opportunity, they're not done. You agree with that, Jerry? Kind of just that mentality of sorts.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, look, it's tomorrow we'll know who all's in the portal for good, barring a grad transfer. We'll see if anybody jumps in there that catches the eye tomorrow, right, Bobby?
Yep. Tyler Durden, this is a really good one, actually, Jerry. I would be interested in your answer. Which running back do you think the staff will win over? Not necessarily who they want more or any of that other stuff, because all these guys are elite players. To go with KJ Edwards up at Carthage, who do you think they win over? Like, who do you think most likely Texas gets a chance at? Derek Cooper, who was on campus this weekend from Chaminade Madonna down in South Florida, Xavier Crowell out of Jackson, Alabama, or Amari Latimer out of the Atlanta area. Which of those 3 running backs do you think they have a chance to win over more?
I can't say. I mean, look, it's a June official visits. I mean, there's a lot of the NIL conversations haven't started. That's a tough call right now. Look, I think the only one Texas leads for is KJ Edwards. So Crowell, will he turn down Alabama? Man, Robert Gillespie has one job in the 26 recruiting class in state, and that's to sign Xavier Crowell. Derek Cooper had a great visit. I think he'll make an official visit. I've said a few times now. Georgia, where he was committed once, backed off of that. It's been to campus several times since his decommitment. Miami, I don't know where they're actually fit there, but those are the top 2. Ohio State, everybody's in on him. I think that you're going to have to see how these visits play out. I really do. I mean, because look, Cooper just got on campus.
Yep.
The first time last
This
week.
is what you talked about, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to give you credit. Hey, let's see if he shows up on a visit, and then let's talk about whether or not the recruitment is real.
Yeah.
At least all 3 of those guys now. Latimer's been once before, has he not?
He's been a couple times before, and he'll be back June 13th, 15th OV.
So my point being, to what you're saying is, get him here once, and then the coaching staff can kind of vet that process out. Like
yes.
Who's realistic, who's not, who are they going to go all in for, et cetera, right?
Yeah, and then even if you go all in, can you get him? I mean, there's no guarantees, right? I mean, the one thing I'll say is I think the 4 official visitors at running back, and we'll see if Chad Scott finds somebody else he likes in May. The 4 guys right now, I think obviously Cooper and Crowell are really high-end guys. But if any 2 of these 4 combination, Texas has done really well at running back. If they sign 2 of these guys, they've done really well in the class.
All right, next one. This is the Monday Night Talking Ball episode, sponsored by our friend Dr. Brett Robin, Austin Orthopedic Institute. Jerry, next question for you. This one comes from LL. What are the updates with Douglasville, Georgia wide receiver Aaron Gregory? Does he have an official visit set? I would say this: he's committed to A&M currently, but seems to be interested in a lot of schools, not just Texas and not just Texas A&M.
Yeah, I think right now he's got A&M official visit June 6th, 8th, Texas 13th through 15th. Let's see if he goes anywhere else. If he only keeps 2 official visits, that'll be a fun recruitment. Will it not? But I think he likes Texas a lot, and we'll see what happens with those OVs. People in Georgia have claimed he won't end up at A&M. Right now, he only has 2 OVs set. I don't think that's the only 2 he'll take, but we'll see.
All right, going to go to the next question here. Thank you all for getting into questions. Please feel free to put those in as much or as quickly as you can here. We're going to go to about the top of the hour, by the way. Rapid calm. Let's look forward to high school football a little bit here, Jerry. Who are some Texas high school football teams who will be loaded next season besides Duncanville? DeSoto. What about North Crowley again?
North Crowley's young talent's off the charts. They have to replace a lot of experience, leadership. The high school quarterback was a stud. I mean, he's going to play wide receiver in college. They lost a lot off that team, both sides of the ball, but they're extremely, extremely talented. So we'll see what that quarterback, how soon that all comes together for them. I was just down at Carthage. You want to go to small schools. I mean, look, what'll be interesting about
11 is what you're telling me, or 12, whatever the number is.
It's going to be favored, but they lost one of their OLDL guys to Arkansas. Another one went D1. They lost a little bit up front on both sides of the ball. If that comes through for them, they're going to be really tough to beat, because it'll be Jet Surratt's last year at quarterback. He's going to play college golf D1. But KJ Edwards at running back. They have 3 D1 wide receivers over there. I mean, they have a kid that's going to be a junior that's an absolute jet. They have two of the better linebackers in the state of Texas on the same team. They got DBs who are lower D1, maybe JUCO kids. They got a lot of talent. If their OL deal comes through, they're going to be a tough out in 4A, as they normally are. I'm interested to see Atascocita North Shore, what they look like next year. Obviously, we'll see. I mean, North Shore's got some good young play. They're kind of like, but they're not nearly as talented as North Crowley or Duncanville. So it'll be interesting.
I mean, I know, like, I'm just thinking about this because you mentioned it's very interesting that the first 3 teams you mentioned were in the Metroplex and then one in Deep East Texas. And then you went down to Houston to talk about Atascocita and North Shore. What about teams like Katy or Summer Creek or Shadow Creek? Down, that area. Anybody in Houston area?
So what's happened down there is what always happens, right? Shadow Creek, New School, Win State. Then it's not in the ISD, but Iowa Colony's built. Well, then more people are moving over to the Iowa Colony area. Iowa Colony's loaded with kids. Loaded. They were in 4A up to 5A now. Loaded. Their young sophomore quarterback was on campus over the weekend, one of the top baseball prospects. He plays on the top travel ball team in Houston. He's a stud in baseball, Carson White. But Iowa Colony's really talented. Shadow Creek, I don't know if they have the same guys and the same setup they had prior. Summer Creek's always going to be really good. That district's brutal. C.E. King's got a lot of really good young players as they continue to try to battle Atascocita and North Shore. Katy they're not old Katy. They don't quite – I watched them when Trey Owens beat them. They did not have the talent level. I mean, look, when Katy Jordan opens up, they have those new schools. Like Katy Jordan's really talented. Fulsheur's got a lot of talent there. So I think there's some schools that have kind of come up, the newer schools in the Katy area, out in the Fulsheur area, Iowa Colony, in that Missouri City area that kind of bleeds by Pearland on the other side of 288, where a lot of talent is going now. So it's getting more spread out. The problem with Houston, it's really spread out. Now, Houston almost has too many schools is an issue. Dallas keeps your Duncanvilles, your Allens. Allen never built a second high school. But they have 7,000 students at this point. I mean, Duncanville, 4,700 students. Those schools up there have done a better job not kind of cannibalizing themselves, opening up multiple schools all the time. Like Frisco has 11 high schools now. You go watch Panther Creek practice, you're like, dadgum, Jalen Lott's unbelievable. Donna Webb's unbelievable. They have a tight end that's a D1 kid, a young running back that's pretty good, but they have no linemen. They have 11 high schools in Frisco ISD, and there's not enough linemen to go around at those schools. So they look small when they get into those games in the playoffs. Now, Prosper is a really talented team up there too.
That's good. Good stuff, Jerry. Appreciate that. You answering that so thoroughly. Justin Yarbrough, when does the rest of the class move on to campus, and what was y'all's thoughts on Sark's speech at the Touchdown Club? 1st of June is when they move on. If they are if they come in the summer, that's for summer. The University of Texas has 2 summer sessions. That's for summer 1. They'll also be there taking classes, working out for summer 2. And then obviously fall semester starts, but 1st of June, I believe, late May, early June is when they show up. Justin, Jerry, you were there for that TD Club speech. I'll let you take that second question from Justin.
Yeah, look, I think Sark was really upbeat while also talking about, look, we're not a finished product. We have work to do. He spoke about the talented freshman class. I think somebody asked him specifically about the offensive line. He said he liked the talent. He wants to see the continuity. The continuity, how they play together is going to be the key. With those guys, talked about Arch, and Arch had a really good spring. He didn't get into a lot of it as far as that goes, but you could tell they're very pleased with the talent level of the team in the program right now. And he really kind of harped on offensive line continuity. He likes the talent, but the continuity is going to be big. He said that about 4 or 5 times within an answer when asked about offensive line. But I think they feel good about where they're at. With that being said, they got some pieces that those guys have to play together, and that will be. He used the term, and I love it. I think you collect your talent in December and through the portal, and then you build your team over the summer with Torrey Becton and into fall practice. And I still think that's the most important thing. It's easy to just keep stacking chips, but you got to build a team. And he talked about the team building that's going to come in the offseason this summer with Torrey Becton, their Culture Wednesdays, the time spent these guys will spend together this summer building that team headed in the fall camp.
Thank you, Justin, for the super chat. Taylor Johnson, thank you as well. Feels like not much has been said about Michael Terry, a young man out of Alamo Heights. His recruitment was huge, but not much during spring practice. I can tell you why, Taylor. He was the least ready, not physically, but technique-wise, of all the young receivers. And the reason why is because he's never been a full-time receiver before. He's played running back and quarterback more than he's played, and even defense more than he's played wide receiver. But no, he is. We got a chance to see him. He's an impressive-looking guy, Jerry. That's why I mentioned him possibly for a kick return type job, because he's a big physical dude that has good hands, good ball skills, has some acceleration to him. But Taylor, there's a reason for that. I really do believe that. In fact, he was one of 3 guys that were highly rated at receiver: Michael Terry, Khalil Lockett, and Jamie French. But all 3 of those guys ended spring camp behind another true freshman, Dalen McCutcheon. And part of the reason that was mentioned there is that McCutcheon is just so far ahead of those other guys from a technique standpoint, because, and not technique is not even the right word, understanding of the offense, because the style of offense that McCutcheon was part of at Lovejoy. I mean, frankly,
and working with
2 Lovejoy receivers were your starting receivers at the end of practice, in Dalen McCutcheon and Parker Livingstone, right, Jerry?
And those guys, both those guys have worked with Margin Hooks multiple years, and he does a really good job helping these guys get ahead of the game as far as route running, the nuances, the understanding. So those guys have both, Parker Livingstone and Dalen McCutcheon, both worked with Margin Hooks for a while too. So they got that. They played for a really good high school system, really good staff. Then they also double dipped and they went and worked with Margin in the DFW area. So those guys were advanced. Michael Terry, a very, very talented kid, but as a wide receiver, he's about as raw as you could find coming in. He just played running back his senior year, and he's never concentrated on one singular position his whole career. It's like Jelani McDonald when he came in. And those guys just take time. Jelani McDonald had never specifically trained at one position. And I think the question long-term for Terry, does he stay at wide receiver? And that'll be proven out over time. That won't be answered right now. That'll come in, I think, the next year.
ArrowKits 27 asked, do we have a long snapper? Yeah. Lance St. Louis is actually on scholarship.
Returner.
Yeah, and he returns. He's a young man that's originally out of Arizona, I think. Jerry, is that right? I can't recall exactly, but anyways, he's a returner guy. John with a team question here. Thank you, John. Who is leading for the second corner and second safety? Well, second corner, this is a great question because Manny Muhammad. I'll give you what I was told on about the defensive secondary last night. Manny Muhammad and Jalen Gilbo finished as the ones in at corner, so it would be Jalen Gilbo right now. But I want to say this: I was told it's not set. The secondary is not set. The second safety at this point in time is Jelani McDonald because it's Michael Taft, Jelani McDonald. Derek Williams is just now getting back on the field. He's still not full go, even though he was suited up quite a bit this spring. So take that for what it's worth at this point. Jelani McDonald and Jalen Gilbo at those two positions. Jerry, M. Dowdows, do you think Georgia and Texas is the new Alabama-Georgia rivalry now, or the old Alabama-Florida, or Florida-Tennessee? Is that now the premier rivalry in the SEC potentially? And Matt, when we talk about this, Matt, our producer, if you don't mind bringing up those SEC draft pick tweets, and maybe we can look at that, or that graphic, we can talk about that in this context. Jerry, there you see Georgia with 13 picks, Texas with 12.
Well, I want to say on the rivalry, Texas has to win a game for it to become a rivalry.
Ooh.
Otherwise, it's just a beatdown. So I'm just being real.
The second game was not a beatdown, my man.
No, but all I'm saying is
Auburn's right leg had something to do with that.
But all I'm saying is if you go to Athens and lose next year, you've lost 3 in a row. So it's not really a rivalry. You have to win a game for it to be a rivalry, right? That's when the rivalry really starts. Right now, it's just Georgia's up 2-0, and they're saying, are y'all going to be able to beat us? Because we still have scoreboard. Until you take the scoreboard at some point, it's not really a rivalry. That's what has to happen. So Texas needs to go to Athens and win the game next year. Then it will become the rivalry in the SEC. Until Texas beats Georgia, it's talked about as, hey, this could be a rivalry, but Texas got to do their part and win a game.
Look at this real quick, though, Jerry. 13-12 for Texas and Georgia. Ole Miss with 8, Alabama 7, LSU 7, Florida 7, South Carolina 5. Tennessee made it to college football playoff last year, but only had 4 drafted. They may be returning more than people think. Where's OU on that list? Can I find them?
2. They're down there by Arkansas and Kentucky.
Ooh, that's not really close to A&M, by the way, at 3 there.
Yeah. Look, what'll be interesting is Alabama has the most returning players in the SEC next year. Now, they also lost Jalen Milroe, and they lost some really great players off that team. And Jihad Campbell, great player. They lost some really, really good players off that. Tyler Booker was a great leader, interior offensive lineman of a program. They lost some key pieces. They have the most back of anybody here now. Most back is a weird term to use, Bobby, in the portal day and age, because LSU probably added 9 starters in the portal. So Texas added, 5 starters in the portal, probably, maybe 6 counting specialists, or 7 counting specialists. So it's a weird thing to say, but Alabama, of the guys who returned to their team, I think has the most returning starters and potential draft picks, what people are saying early on, even though I don't put any credence in mock drafts, but what you do is understand Alabama has some really talented guys coming back. Florida has some talented guys coming back on both sides of the ball, a couple of D linemen that are really good players, Tyreek Sapp and another one, obviously Lagway, Jaden Ball. Their secondary's got to stay healthy. Eugene Wilson's got to stay healthy at wide receiver. I think Georgia lost the most impact guys, them and Ole Miss, of anybody on this list.
Wow, I think Texas lost a lot. Now, that doesn't mean that Texas and Georgia, for example, aren't prepared to withstand that. but the numbers speak volumes, in my opinion. I would agree with you. If you're looking and trying to prognosticate for this coming year, 2025, Alabama, even with the loss of Jalen Milroe, he may not have fit a Kalen DeBoer style offense. I mean, they might get more like Alabama under Kalen DeBoer had no business losing to Oklahoma last year.
Right.
But Jalen Milroe had problems completing a forward pass against the OU defense, right? With a different style of quarterback, what does Alabama look like? Ole Miss, I think 7 of their 8, if I'm not mistaken, were transfers. 7 of their 8 were portal transfers, draft picks. So they really, to your point, they had made hay. They did that again this year. Florida should be fairly good. South Carolina brings back that quarterback. And then Tennessee, they look, like I said, they were in the college football playoff a year ago. We'll have to see what that looks like.
Georgia, by the way, those keeping track, Georgia had 7 defensive players drafted that were considered starters for them and lost 2 other starters. They lost 9 guys considered to be starters off their defense. That is a lot. I don't care how talented you are. And that's all the guys up front. That's half your linebackers. That's your signal caller, Malachi Starks, and Dan Jackson, the other safety signed free agent. Then we talk about Texas. Georgia had 4 offensive linemen gone. And real all-American at guard. The center's a stud, Wilson. The other guard, Fairchild's really good player. Xavier Truss, the right tackle. Georgia lost a lot off that team. That they got some work to do. That's going to be interesting this year. Ole Miss is trying to reload in the portal. And Georgia didn't go as heavy portal. That's the thing. So Georgia's going to be a very interesting team to me next year. Tennessee's going to be very interesting too because you lost your QB and your running back off your playoff team.
Yeah. Good stuff.
That's going to be interesting.
All right. Before we go to our final few questions here tonight, I want to say thank you again to our sponsor. Special thanks to Dr. Brett Robin at Austin Orthopedic Institute for sponsoring On Texas Football and Monday Night's Talkin' Ball. Dr. Robin, a former Longhorn running back, knows what it takes to stay in the game, and he's here for athletes of all ages, specializing in musculoskeletal health. Dr. Robin treats joint pain and injuries with a conservative approach first, but also offers advanced surgical options, including arthroscopic procedures, fracture management, and total joint replacements. With convenient offices in Austin, Georgetown, and Killeen, Dr. Robin is accepting new patients now. If you're looking for a top-notch orthopedic, look no further than Dr. Robin. Give him a call, 512-856-1000. That's 512-856-1000. Get back to your active lifestyle and doing what you love. Dr. Brett Robin, the former Longhorn running back, now in business. And he's been I talked to somebody the other day about Brett. They talked to him, and he was very excited about the Longhorn football team. I'll just put it that way. So good hearing that. Jerry, one more question about that kind of came up as it related to you seeing Steve Sarkisian in person today. Okay. This one from Mr. Talk Too Much. How will they handle the Nick Brooks punishment? Do they suspend him for Ohio State, or is it more of a summer punishment? What did you gain or gather from what Steve Sarkisian said today at the Houston TD Club?
I think it's too early. Let's see what happens in all this. I don't fear for Nick Brooks being off the team. I'll say that.
Okay. All right.
But what's going to happen after that?
Could it be a 1-game suspension, for example?
We'll have to see. Brett, I want to ask this. Texas basketball knows P.J. Haggerty. Texas is not recruiting P.J. Haggerty. I know there's an erroneous report out there today. Texas is not recruiting P.J. Haggerty.
Who is that? Where's he from?
He's the combo guard out of Memphis. He's originally from Crosby, Texas. He went to TCU, Tulsa, Memphis, now back in the portal. Really talented scorer, wants to play point guard. Initially went in the portal asking for $4 million. That's not Texas isn't going there. Texas is looking globally for a final guard spot, and then they'll also bring in, I think, a developmental big that is not kind of in the plans for this year unless there's injury, and we'll see if they use the 13th scholarship. Not a lock, they do.
Okay. Eric Rodriguez, thank you, Eric, for your question. I feel we have a good idea of what the offense under Arch will look like. If Quinn declared last year, what are y'all's thoughts on an Arch-led team with last year's offense all season? Do we win more?
Tough because the injuries. I think the injuries really hurt Texas offensively this year. If Cedric Baxter changed Texas's plan, whether they say so publicly or not, it changed the plan. He's a second-team All-SEC running back going into the year. Nick Saban famously said he was the best running back they played against last year. He didn't say runner, just all-around player. And then Isaiah Bond goes down when he's on pace for 1,000 yards. They had to work through some injuries on offense last year. And so, look, it's
still made it to the national semifinal.
It's a national semifinal. So they overcame some injuries on offense that they maybe didn't have to deal with as much, even though Jonathan Brooks did get hurt late in the season the year before. I mean, that Isaiah Bond with what they had planned was another big loss for Texas during the season because he was just never the same. And then whatever happened. But yeah, it's a tough call because Bobby, it would have been, would Gunnar Helm had been the same type of season under Arch, because Arch throws the ball down the field more, and Gunnar Helm is not going to be the seam guy really ripping and running down the field as much. What would it have looked like? It would have been a lot different.
Yeah, I think that power run with Arch, you're going to try to do a lot of play action, man. With Quinn, you tried to get the ball out quick.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
And they kind of built the receiver.
Didn't have a play action back last year.
Right.
I mean, I love Trey Wisner. He's not a play action back.
And they kind of built the wide receiver core to Quinn's strengths.
Yeah.
I mean, Isaiah Bond's not a run and 50-50 ball guy. He's not a back shoulder guy, right? They kind of built it to Quinn's strengths a little bit last year too, and where Isaiah Bond's strengths were. All
right. Last couple of questions here. Let's go to Sports Dojo. Thank you very much for your super chat, Sports Dojo. Can we get a Kenya Pepe or Felix Ojo in the 2026 class? Those are two big offensive tackles. Pepe from IMG Academy down in Bradenton, Florida. Ojo out of the Metroplex there in Dallas. What are your thoughts on those two, Jerry? And throw John Turntine in that mix as well. Another big offensive tackle Texas loves.
Yeah, I think so. I think, it's interesting. I know we talk about this all the time. Everybody kind of has their favorites, guys they watch on Huddle or whatnot. But I think the Texas staff is a little different in this. I know people because of what kids may say publicly, think there's an order. I wouldn't. I don't go with that, by the way, just so you'll know. Great players are great players, and just trust me on this. So I think the main thing is to get two really good tackles remaining. Max Wright's a tackle prospect, could be a swing guy. Nick Robertson in the fold is interior, getting two of those tackle guys. And Sam Roseburg goes in there as well. Malachi Lee, I think Kyle Flood and Johnny Nance are going out to Hawaii next week to see him, so they really feel like they're a player. For Malachi Lee, who's going to officially visit. Sam Utu set to officially visit. Texas in on a lot of guys. Kenya Pepe is originally from Los Angeles. The reason he wasn't on campus last weekend is he had sickness in his family unexpectedly, so people couldn't make the trip. But he plays at IMG. So, look, I think Texas is positioning themselves to walk away with two really talented tackles. And you want one of those. If you got both in-state guys, great, but you can't play that game. You're just recruiting these 4 or 5 really talented guys for 2 spots and kind of seeing where the chips fall, because I don't care what people say. Somebody could be they think somebody's 80%, somebody's 70%. It just doesn't matter in the NIL game. You got to see how these dominoes fall and when the timing of these fall. But some of these guys like recruiting more than others. They put it out there more than others. The NIL process is just starting for a lot of these guys. And then it gets real in the next month and a half, and we'll see where it goes, because you could be leading for a guy, and what if somebody comes in and offers 500, 600,000 more?
Yep.
You ain't leading anymore.
This one from Catch the Wave. Thank you for the super chat as well. Hey, fellas, and this is a good question. Just is there any way that Quinn falling in the draft can be used in negative recruiting? What do you I mean, Sark has such, no offense, but Sark has such a pedigree with quarterbacks. It's hard to imagine that can be used negative recruiting.
Yeah. So if Texas was 6-7 and 7-6, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Fair.
when you're winning, that's a steep. I mean, if you're trying to negative recruit against a team that's been in the college football playoffs 2 straight years and had 23 guys drafted, you're in a bad spot as a recruiter.
Hey, by the way, let's add one more thing that they've done, because we're just Catch the Wave is asking specifically about quarterback and Quinn Ewers, right? How do you negative recruit against a team that's had a player picked at every single position in the last 2 years?
Yeah,
every single position on the roster has had a draft pick. I mean, have fun with that. A&M, and LSU, and Oklahoma, or TCU and Baylor, Texas Tech, somebody like that might try to do it. I mean, Texas had more draft picks than the entire state of Texas combined.
And this is no offense to Quinn, but the only way you get in some negative recruiting are people like going, if Arch flopped and went in the 6th round, then you might have people start saying, hey, now.
Yeah.
Hey, now. That's the one. That's the one,
I got it. That's fair. All right. Hey, let's finish with these two, because these are both about kids up in Richardson, Texas. First from Kenneth Cassidy. Is Texas still recruiting the running back from Lake Highlands?
Christian.
And positive updates with defensive lineman Jamian Winfield, who's committed to USC out of Richardson. When is his official visit? Is he still scheduled to visit? And what about this running back from Lake Highlands?
Christian Rhodes, the running back from Lake Highlands. We'll see if Chad Scott makes a move there. I haven't heard it. I think he committed early on. So I haven't heard anything. He hasn't been on. He's not set up for an OV on that. So we'll see if they set anybody else up for an OV. But the 4 they have coming in for OVs are really, really talented backs. On Jamian Winfield, tentatively scheduled for June 13th through 15th. Obviously, Kenny Baker was up to see him today, or will be this week. Look, he's pretty solidly committed to USC, but we'll see as this process moves along. That's a recruitment that you'll stay in until November. Get him on campus during the season. Just let the thing play out. Keep recruiting him. He's very talented. You're not going to walk away, even if he remains solidly committed through the summer. Texas will swing away on that. They'll see what happens with USC this year. Look, again, families from Mississippi. They moved to Richardson last year. USC had a ton of talented D linemen in the boat last year. All of them bounced that were from the Southeast on them. Justice Terry, Gibson ended up signing with Georgia. There was another one out there. I can't remember right now. The chat probably can.
David Griffin, right?
But it's what USC is going to battle because they lead with NIL first. So they better have a really good season when you lead with NIL first.
That's exactly right. Because money's the same color everywhere. Just telling you.
And somebody followed up. Is Texas still a favorite for Dylan Berryman? I believe they are. But Texas has a lot of D linemen on the board coming in June. It's going to be interesting to kind of see who gets the last big push on these OVs. Dylan Berryman's an over-the-ball player.
All right, we got to get going. But Jerry, I just want to put this out here for you. You raised some feathers a little bit. Arch wins in Athens from Sandman. Will Texas be favored in Athens by Rick Ambria? You raised a little ire there by saying Texas hadn't won yet.
Hey.
So just putting that out there, big guy.
Look, I mean, hey, everybody had to go through it, right? I mean, you had to go through it. That's part of it. You got to look when you got to take down the champ at some point in your conference. You got to take him. And look how long it took Kirby to take down Nick.
Yeah,
it did not happen overnight.
No, it did not. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks again to our sponsor, Dr. Brett Robin of Austin Orthopedic Institute. We appreciate him very, very much. Jerry, thank you as always for your expertise. A lot of insight you give us each and every time. And also thank you to our producer, Matt Hutchison, behind the scenes, pulling all the strings. And thank you to everyone out there joining us on tonight's Talking Ball episode. We appreciate you very, very much. Longhorns got basically, we didn't even talk about the baseball team, man. Jeez. Number 1 in the country, sweep of the Aggies. For Jerry Hamilton, as well as Matt Hutchison, this has been On Texas Football, Talking Ball. Hook 'em, guys.